were at our financial end. We were losing businesses all over my area, and I thought, why? How could you possibly need more money? I've been giving you, $9,400 a year is what my property taxes went up to. I thought, I'm really at my financial end here. I can't keep giving you, more money. Surely you have enough. I'll run for school board. Maybe I can help you make decisions. Let me see. Are they things that the kids want, or the things that the kids need, or is it for adults, or is it for children? What is the money for? So I got elected to the school board, and I have to say that I was very, very lonely, because I was a conservative among people not so much. And so I would vote my conscience, and I would give a little speech on why I voted the way I did. Very calmly, I knew I was outvoted. That didn't matter. They had elected me to be that different voice or that opposition, but that's not the coaching I got, guys. As soon as I was sworn in, I was taken away to an organization meeting, and this organization is called Ohio School Boards Association, and they coach school board members on how to be a good school board member. And I left that weekend getting lots of good tips on sunshine law, executive session, Open Records Act, all these things that we really have to be careful of when you're in public office. And, things that are conflict of interest and all, that's good stuff. But intertwined in that was how to be a good school board member. And you will do what you're told by the superintendent treasurer. You hired them, you have to trust them. Stand down, sit down. You need to be a united front. You can disagree behind closed doors, but when it comes time, you need to kind of, be a group here. You need to not walk through the buildings that makes people nervous. You need to always be a cheerleader for your district. Don't air dirty laundry. Don't take anybody by surprise. I can keep going, guys. But I left that weekend knowing I was not going to be a good school board member. This was going to be a rough 4 years. So we got to a place where the district started listening to me, reluctantly listening to me, because money wasn't coming. So what else can we do? I said, well, we got to look at our deficiencies. I want to show you what's been going on in American education, because there are deficiencies, and for some reason we've been ignoring those. I'm going to help you decide what the reason is. This is just my family, and we feel pretty strongly about supporting our veterans and our soldiers, so we put on this kind of family picnic. It's a thank you foundation picnic, so I just start out with that. Now I got to find my arrows. Smart. That's one of my children in the forest, looking pretty inquisitive. I have 5 kids, 3 in college. She's pre-med at OU, 4.0. Yes. I've got a pharmacy major, 4.0 in her pharmacy program at ONU, and then 1 at MTSU. I'm broke. That's all that means. And then 2 in high school coming through. But I wanted you to keep this in mind. This was said 70 years ago, okay, by Norman. I think it's Matthew Thomas. He said that the American people will never knowingly adopt socialism, but under the name of liberalism, they will adopt every fragment of the socialist program until one day America will be a socialist nation without knowing it happened. He went on to say, I no longer need to run for president for the Socialist Party. The Democratic Party has adopted our platform.
Okay. Progressives.
Yeah. Ohio Education and Common Core. You first need to ask some questions. Why are we even considering national standards? Doesn't that go against everything our founders set up for us? Doesn't it go against all the freedoms and the liberty? It's telling us there's one voice that will tell us what we will teach. It goes against it. Why are we doing this? Whose agenda is it? What's the end product? Is there something else? Well, look at this. Here's what we know, and here's what we've known for a long time. Nobody's denying it. It's the truth. This is the Cato Institute. They have some beautiful charts, by the way. I steal from them often. But this is one that shows the spending. The blue line is spending over time since the 1970s. The other lines are reading, math, and science scores. That's national. Okay, and here again, we're looking at a little bit older segment of our student population, the SATs. The greenish line is spending per pupil, and the bottom lines are the SAT scores over time. Okay? Why just not doing anything about education. This is what's happening in Ohio, and I'm just cutting right to the chase. I have another presentation I do. This one I'm going to kind of focus in on Common Core and why it's not the answer. But here's what we do in the state of Ohio. In order for your districts to be considered excellent and excellent with distinction, they have to pass certain benchmarks. Here's an example of one of the benchmarks. So in order for you to get a point on the education indicators, okay, one of the 24 now, there used to be 26, 75% of your students need to be proficient or above to get one of those points. And the closer you are to 24, the more likely you are to get an A now, what used to be excellent and excellent with distinction. But what does it take to get proficient? Well, in 3rd grade reading, you see that up there? Proficient, a student only needs to answer 57% of the questions correctly, and they're called proficient. We'll keep going. 4th grade reading, 47%. 6th grade reading, 35%. So they only need to answer 1/3 of the questions correctly, and they're proficient. We keep going over here to math, 3rd, 4th, 6th, 7th. Those are the grades that the tests are taken. Look at 7th grade math, 32%. They only have to answer 32% of the questions correctly, and they're called proficient.
Oh my God.
And only 75% of your students need to get that, and you get a point on the education indicators. So some of our legislators, and well, Ohio School Board, they're calling it the truth. They're starting to tell us, guys, this is their charts, by the way. I use some of their stuff that they present. So nobody's hiding it anymore. They're saying, OMG, there's a problem. There's a problem. We're denying that we're not doing well. And so some teachers, a curriculum director in our school said, well, you know, Kelly, the test is really hard. And that could be. That's legitimate. Except that another marker is our global lack of success, because we have people from other countries taking our jobs and spanking us on the international exams. So there are other markers that indicate this is not the only case. We don't just have difficult exams. We're not making the mark all the way across the globe. We're dropping the ball. And one of the reasons I might suggest to you is because we're letting failing grades count as okay. So we don't need Common Core. Here's what I'll keep coming back to. We don't need Common Core new standards federal takeover. We need to fix this. We need to stop calling failing grades proficient, because I didn't know that's what it meant. I was a parent. I would get those bar charts back from my children, and they're beautiful. They'd say like 440, 502, and great big bars. I didn't know that proficient meant they could have failed it. Because if a child of mine came home with 32% correct, alarm bells would go off in my head, wouldn't it? Oh my gosh, I need to get him a tutor. All of his electronics are gone. You know, he's home for the summer, doggone it. You know, no camps for you. I would definitely make some actions happen. I wouldn't take necessarily that bar chart and go to my district and beat them up over it. I would say, parent, you have to take control of this problem. You can go to the district and say, okay, what can I do? Obviously, he or she's not getting the content. Help me figure out what to do. I need a tutor. I need to sit down every night 2 hours after school. What do I need to do? Coach me. I can do that. And you know, I'm a teacher. She said that. I'm a professor for 10 years. So I'm likely to take the side of the teacher. Know that. There's been some money funneling I'm going to definitely fess up to that education has done. We've ignored these deficiencies and instead funneled the money to the adults. That's a problem. That's what gets communities mad. And that's what creates divisiveness. We need to stop doing that. We need to start having parity in economics, because your economic reality needs to match the economic reality to your employees. Okay, I'll get to that in a minute. But anyway, we're accepting failing grades. Even the 10th grade OGTs. Proficient means they answer 43% of the questions correctly, or in math, 43% of the questions correctly. That's not okay. Proficient to most of us means okay. That's not okay. We need to say that's not okay. So 2011, Newark passed 20 of the 26 indicators and was called excellent. Guess what, guys? In about that year, Southwestern, near Columbus, they passed only 13 of the 26 indicators, and they were still called excellent. They failed half the indicators, didn't even meet that 75% proficient, and they were still called excellent. So some of those people in Columbus call it a cruel hoax. I agree, because we're not being honest with the taxpayers. There's a reason for that. You know, you have to be convinced that everybody's hunky-dory, everybody's doing fabulous, or you're going to say, okay, no more money until you fix it. So there's been a reason people haven't been telling us this. In 2012, they passed 23 of 26, and you were effective. 13, 23 of 24, so they cut down on the number of indicators, and you got an A. I'm questioning, and I should call Ohio School Board and ask, did you get rid of the 2 indicators that were the toughest to meet, perhaps? Because that's what we've seen. Okay, and AYP, adequate yearly progress, was not met any of those years.
What was AYP?
AYP is adequate yearly progress.
Okay.
That's the amount of learning that they do in a year. Did they meet 1 year's worth of learning? The answer is no, for any of those years.
So they still got an A, but they didn't meet the AYP. Okay.
I'll come back to that. Okay, so, excellent in Ohio, really? Illusion or cruel hoax? Guys, this was from a report done by Colleen Grady and Ann Sheldon. And Colleen Grady, I'd have to say, is the encyclopedia in Columbus on education. She works with all of the legislators. If they have any education questions, they go right to her. She wrote a report, Colleen Grady. Colleen is fabulous. She answers my questions immediately. If I call her, she answers the phone. She answers me immediately. I say, where do I need to go for this information? She sends me right to it. Or what's happening here? She can always answer me. So it's wonderful. She wrote a report that you can find. It's called Grading on a Curve. Grading on a Curve. Absolutely, you can have any of these PowerPoints too. I sent one to Nancy, a copy to Nancy. Ask her for it, she'll send it to you. So you can have all these slides. I'm sharing with everybody because they're not all mine. I usually have a reference on here. Grading on a Curve. So Colleen Grady and Ann Sheldon wrote that. So some of these slides are from that report. Beautiful report. And you'll read that report and you'll get kind of frustrated with education. But I'm glad somebody's talking the facts and the truth. But here's what she showed us. She showed us in this report that in 2002 and 2003, only 85 districts in the state of Ohio were excellent with distinction. By the year of 2010 and 11, 352 were excellent with distinction. And I asked Tom Gunlock, who's the vice president of the Ohio School Board, Tom, why is that? Are we getting better? Are we teaching better? And we're getting, to that test and doing better? He says, no, Kelly, we've lowered the bar. We've lowered those cut scores so that more schools meet it. We've not done better at teaching to the test or teaching the content that the kids need to know. And again, I'm going to come back to that because I don't want to beat up teachers. I'm beating on some other people. You'll see in a minute. I am a teacher, and I do think that they're working hard in that classroom. I do think they're doing what they're supposed to do and what they're told to do. The problem is there's a disconnect between the test and what they're given in the classroom to teach. Okay? I do think that we don't teach enough hours. Absolutely. I do think that we need to do a lot more on that. By the way, I'm running for state senate, so I don't want to give away all my secrets. I think education has to change. So this is one of the things. But anyway, all 4 areas, this says percent of Ohio students ready for college level coursework. Only 28% of our college graduates in the state of Ohio are ready for college. Only 28% in all of these categories. In English, 71% are ready. In math, only 49% are ready. In reading, and then in science. Not impressive numbers yet. Here's Newark. Okay, here's what I wanted to add. This is adequate yearly progress. Okay, in Newark. Overall, you got an A. Not sure why, because if you separate it a little bit more, your gifted students got a D. Okay, but as you look at this, most school districts got Ds in adequate yearly progress for their gifted students. We did. Here in Springboro, they're in Springboro, we have, what our curriculum director said, 40% of our students are gifted. Oh my. I believe that. We're one of the wealthiest communities in the state of Ohio. I believe that. I believe that we give those teachers, we give that district some ready students. They're sitting in that room, sitting in that chair, ready to learn. I believe that. So I believe 40% of our students are, but we got a D. That means that our students got much less, far less, than a year's worth of learning. We're not prepared to handle these students. We're prepared to handle students right in the middle. And that's it. Because look, students with disabilities and students at the lowest percentile in achievement, you still got C's. Didn't even get B's. So might be an A overall, but who's it an A for? Right here. Our districts aren't prepared and aren't working for those people at both ends of the continuum. We're working right here. And that's always been one of my problems, is that I knew my youngsters, honestly, I'm not bragging, I was afraid that my twins would be disruptive. Sent them off to kindergarten, first grade, oh, please, make them behave. Because they were wiry little things, little girls, and I knew that they would likely get bored, not just physically, but mentally, if somebody didn't keep them engaged in the classroom. And I just prayed, and actually they turned out to be extremely quiet. They never said a word, but I'm pretty sure they were out in La La Land. But they got straight A's. I mean, they have full rides to their places. They're just advanced. And I kept thinking, gosh, I hope that they're being challenged. I hope they're not just giving them some busy work over in the corner, because a teacher can't teach that whole continuum. It's impossible. I've been a teacher, and it was impossible to address the needs of somebody who had some learning difficulties and the person at the upper end. We're not prepared in education to segregate them so that we can help this one more by having peer groups that they learn best with and peer groups that they learn. We're not able to do that because we have one-size-fits-all now. And what people are complaining about Common Core is that it's a one-size-fits-all. That's what we have. So I don't like Common Core, you're right. But what we've got isn't working either. And that's why our legislators and the governors and everybody across this country said, okay, we admit this is happening everywhere, not just in Ohio. We have to fix this. The federal government comes in with this, here you go, and it comes with money. And so of course they got set up. But I think our teachers got set up. You understand? The teachers got set up because they were made to teach this content to this whole continuum. How the heck do you do that in your day? Now, I believe teachers should work a longer work day. I believe teachers should work a longer work year. That's beside the issue. Yeah?
I'm a little confused by what you're saying about not getting a D to your gifted students, not a full year of learning. What does that mean?
Well, they measure content and the amount of content that a student should learn within a year. So they take that student's test scores the year before and measure at the end of the year, which is March. Okay, measure in March. Did they get a year's worth of learning? Did they acquire a year's worth of information?
I just don't, that seems kind of arbitrary to me. I was trying to figure out what it means.
Well, I'd like to know if my gifted student is moving ahead. I'd like to know if my student who's struggling is getting a year's worth of growth. And if
But
not,
is that a textbook that's
you know
this
what?
big and they only get a half of it? Or
you know, the state has set up those instruments to measure. And so what they're saying is, we're not giving students a year's worth of learning at these levels. So then what we have to ask is, how can we get them more learning at those levels?
okay,
You know? So we can do that in a variety of ways. I'm not coming up with a solution today. I'm just saying, Houston, we have a problem. And Kelly Coles isn't the only one identifying we have a problem. The state, the Ohio School Board, every state has said we have a problem. We have a problem because foreign people are taking our upper echelon jobs. Why is that? Why is that? You know, Mitt Romney totally frustrated me. We worked very hard for him because we felt that he was, of the two, the only one we wanted to work for. And he said at a debate that, you know, we have to hire people from other countries because we don't have those expertise here. But we have the kids here. We have the gifted kids here. We're just not treating them like they have the IQs to take on those kinds of job opportunities. We're keeping them down.
Yeah.
In other countries, they're not doing that. They're not keeping them down. They're accelerating those students. So Anyway, we dropped the ball there. But anyway, we look at 6th grade significant problems in reading. There's a minus 6.8, one of the highest numbers I've ever seen. Math, minus 4.4, and in all tests, minus 7.4, 6th grade. You can look at your district's report card on the Ohio Department of Education. And you can call them and say, okay, how do I get to our report card? And you can get these printouts for each building. So you can see exactly which buildings are having difficulty. The districts can do that. Now, are they going to do anything with it? That's a whole other subject. It's kind of frustrating to me. I've watched it. So here's what Clean Grady gave us. She says, here is the red line is the number of excellent schools, gone up over time. I just said that, right? But blue is the percent of gifted students served. As time has gone on, we're serving less and less and less gifted students. That may be true of the other end of the continuum too, but I know at least with our gifted students, we're dropping the ball. We're not giving them resources. Why? This was from a report that I find, oh, it's not on here, sorry about that. You just go to Compare Ohio Schools. Compare Ohio Schools is a great website, beautiful charts. But here, this person, one of our members, was looking at the red line is the composite performance score divided by the inflation-adjusted expenditures. So pretty much pupil expenditures. The purple is the ACT divided by expenditures. So as the expenditures have gone up, the ACTs have gone down. Okay, it's been about the kids. It's not been about the kids for some time. That's what I've been saying. That's why some of the newspapers don't like me. I'm okay with that. Because I'm actually telling the truth. I go out here and I tell you guys, we have a problem. Here's how we should address it. It's up to you, but I'm going to give you some ideas. According to Tom Gunlock, he is the vice president of the Ohio School Board. He said, the state of Ohio, it's all about the money and who's in control of it. He's come to learn that after being there for a few years. It's all about the money and who is in control of it. In the last 5 years, Newark households lost $430 per year in income.
That all?
Yep.
I think it's more than that.
Yeah, that's according to the Similar Districts report on ODE. So I use ODE for a lot of my data, right, from the Ohio Department of Ed. So I'm sure that your income went up for maybe a couple of those 5, and then it came back down, and maybe it's stabilized, I don't know. But you'll see almost everybody, everywhere I go, and I've probably done 80 of these presentations, you'll see that, early in 2000, things were kind of going up steadily, and then there's some drop, some leveling, some drop, and so we've not done well. As a state, overall, state residents have lost income. And I'll get to this next slide. This is talking about parity. Where is there parity? And I said the economic reality outside the district needs to match the economic reality inside the district. That's not what's been happening. The money that's been going into the district has been funneled to not our deficiencies, but to pay and benefits. So here's another picture of that, and this is from Compare Ohio Schools. You can get your district, I didn't look up your district, I could have done that. You can get your district, Newark, anybody else, by one of the search places. I don't think I have it on here, but it's real easy. You just kind of navigate that site and you'll find a chart for your district. But if you look at the dotted black line, that's teacher salaries over this time, from 2001 to 2011. That's teacher salaries. Then you look at resident salaries. Now, at least they were both kind of going up, but then economic reality hit for citizens in Ohio, and that's what we've been seeing. But we've not been seeing the same economic reality in public employers, typically. But the money's been going there, we've just not been funneling towards the deficiencies.
Molly, what's the purple one?
Excuse me. Consumer price index. Inflation.
Eggs gone up 40% in 1 year.
I'm telling you, we're feeling it. Well, farts eat too much. Then you've got the green line here. So I like to put this in here. This was called shared sacrifice. Okay? This is about OEA, Ohio Teachers Union. The green line is their average pay over those years. The yellow is average teacher pay. The orange is government, other government entities, and the blue is private citizens.
And who's OEA?
Ohio Teachers Union.
Yeah, are those the employees of the union, not the teachers, but the employees?
No, the employees of the union. So that would be your union reps. Anyway, last 5 years, enrollment has declined 3% in Newark. So I just want to give you some kind of statistics for Newark. So declining enrollment over the last 5 years. However, the full-time employee count has increased by 2%. When you got decreasing enrollment but increasing employees, you're always going to increase that personnel line. But a good question, and the only reason I started asking this stuff and started knowing where to find it was because I was asking my own district. You know, when enrollment's flat, did you know that in the last 10 years, Ohio has lost 110,000 students? Has anybody been telling you about that? There's a mass exodus, people. Nobody's telling us because we might get alarmed and want to exit too. But these kids aren't going without their parents, that's for sure. And where are they going? Are they going to private schools? I've been asking. And the private schools are saying, yeah, no. We've got 2 or 3 more. Like at Fenwick, which is near us, yeah, we got a couple more from your public schools. That's not it. They're leaving Ohio for jobs, probably. 5-year forecast. When you look at the 5-year forecast, which is one of the things I had to kind of dive myself into, because I wasn't understanding if enrollment was flat, why are we projecting 10% increases in personnel expenses? Well, we have to project for the future and use what we've done in the past, but when you look at Newark's 5-year forecast, the past 3 years the personnel hasn't skyrocketed, but it is in the next 5. The problem was I kept saying to our school board and the treasurer, I said, look, if I say yes to this forecast as a school board member, does that mean that gives you permission to spend this way? And the treasurer would say, well, no, it's a living, breathing document. It's subject to change. But I don't think that's how people see this. I think they see 7% raises and that I say yes and say yes and walk away. I think we should say the amount that we're going to give in raises is a match to what we negotiated, right? And beyond that negotiated agreement, I'm going to suggest that it's 0% increase because we haven't negotiated it yet. Of course, that didn't go well with the other board members, so I had to vote no on a forecast. Guys, that's never been done. We need our board members, like Rick here. I talked Rick into running for school board a long time ago. But I think that school board members need to be able to say, no, I don't think we should spend that way. I don't think we should forecast this enormous expenditures when revenue is flat. I think we need to act like a business and keep our business expenses to whatever our revenue is, and not assume that you're all going to rescue us when we overspend each year. So I started saying stuff like that. People said, hey, maybe she has a point. They elected 2 more of me in the following November, took board majority, and I became the president. So it worked out well. We were able to take a projected $30 million deficit, turn it into a $12 million surplus without new money, because we changed some of these projections that were ridiculous. Ridiculous. I said, why would we assume a 10% increase in insurance costs and our citizens are going to pay for that? Like everybody else in business, you fret those expenses and you don't know where you're going to come up with them. But in our case, they took it out of the employee's pocket, not the taxpayers, or they couldn't increase the price of a car. My husband sells cars. So they can't increase the price of a car beyond their competition. So the employees are going to have to cover that expense, right? But in a public sector, they assume you're going to pay for that. I said, let's not assume that unless they pass a levy to pay for that. So if we want a levy, we can go out to our taxpayers and say, look guys, our insurance just went up 10%. And we want raises of 7%. How's that? I mean, I think that would be honest, right? That would be honest and say, I want a levy because I want to cover these expenses. But it's not honest to say, we need a levy for the kids. Because I just showed you, they're not doing it for the kids. They haven't been for a long time. Because we have deficiencies that are well-defined, well-known, well-understood, and nobody's addressing them. So let's stop saying it's for the kids. Let's be honest and say it's for us, the adults. We want our health insurance and we want our pay raises. And if the community thinks that you're underpaid, then I think they will say yes. It's just a matter of being honest. Let's let the community decide. Of course, that's not a message that goes over well. But it is transparent, it is honest, and I want education to change. I don't want the federal government to come over and take over because we've made these mistakes. Somebody realized years ago that you were going to figure out, and somebody was going to tell that education wasn't working. They knew you'd figure it out, and they thought, okay, as soon as they start getting wind, boom, in comes Common Core. In 2009, Governor Strickland put it in his budget bill, and he obligated the state of Ohio to accept Common Core and park assessments. And you know the way to take over a country, guys? You control the test. And if you want to control a country, you take over education and you do it with the test. Because we started a system that 30 years ago is when this whole thing started, with outcome-based education. Because they knew then everybody's money was dependent upon how well you took the test and did on the test. Your money's dependent upon it. They knew that whoever writes that test can write that test, and you are not in control. None of you are. No parent is. My daughter, one of my 16-year-old, just took the PSAT last fall, which is the test before the SAT. So she's a junior. And she took the test, and I thought, that's weird, because on the OGT, she got the 6th highest score in her school of 433 students. The 6th highest score in a school where 40% of them are gifted. I'm thinking, yeah, that's a scholarship, we're good. Surely she's got a scholarship and we're good. Okay, one more down. And then I just have my son, who's, I think, going to be Bob the Builder. Stay home with mom, maybe. Oh, if I could get him motivated, that would be a great thing. But so I thought, we're doing well. Guess what? A PSAT, she didn't do so well. She got in the 88th percentile. That's not what I would have predicted. So they made a mistake and they gave her the exam. I say they made a mistake because my husband, I said, they know not what they do when they hand me the evidence. So what I did, I'm looking through the test, and it was the most political test I've ever seen. I thought, wow, what an ingenious way to sift out those pesky conservative kids from the upper echelon of schools and scholarships. What a beautiful way they've done this. Do you understand that that test is everything? And when we signed on to take Park, we signed over our children.
Explain Park, please.
Park is the partnership for, I need to move on with my slides because it's on there.
Okay.
See, I did this as a professor. I would totally get off here. But let me go over this financial and I'll come right back to that. So revenue in Newark is projected to go up about $2 million per year. That's huge. I've not seen that before. You should be celebrating. But then expenses will increase, mostly personnel, retirement and insurance increases every year to an end where you're deficit spending. You're spending more than that $2 million increase per year. The 5-year forecast, if I were you, I'd walk in there and say, what? How could we be outspending a $2 million gift every year? And 2 million on 2 million on 2 million on 2 million, guys. I mean, how could we be spending more than that? So that we're projecting a 1.5 average deficit spending per year. When our enrollment was declining, I said that, right? What are we doing with this money? And it looks like there's a renewal that's going to happen in 2015. Totally up to you to vote for that. I'd be struggling with that renewal. Looks like a $3.5 bill renewal. But if you pass the renewal, you're going to sit on, what, $13.5 million surplus? That's significant. Anyway, last 3 years was enrollment was, declining enrollment. Total expenditures rose by almost $3.5 million. Even so, your unreserved balance. You guys, if you get these slides, you can go over this later. I'm going to move on to more Common Core content. Okay, but you can read this stuff later. So what does Ohio do about the problems? Obviously, we have a mismatch. Money with education or academic outcome. They're not matching, right? I hate to be, I'm not the only one to tell you this. Everybody says this up in Columbus. When I say, guys, why are you legislators doing this? Why are you doing Common Core? It doesn't make fiscal sense, and it doesn't make academic sense. And they're smart people. Why are you doing this? I've asked them, why are you doing this? Please explain it to me. If you're telling me we're doing it because we want the unions out, and we think this is the way to do it, I could buy that. I could understand then there's some motive. But right now, I don't understand your motive. Makes no sense. Now, I might be uneducated, so please educate me. It is going to destroy the teaching profession. I don't want a computer in front of my kids. So why are you doing this? You guys don't want a computer in front of your kids. Why are you doing this? Anyway, so Lamar Alexander in 1989 was talking about new schools. And actually Heidi Huber proved last night in her presentation in West Claremont, she's got the documents to prove that this is exactly what they're doing now. But back in 1989, he says we should take babies from 3 months to 18 and have school from 6 to 6. Now, I don't disagree that we need more education time, but who's teaching them makes a difference to me, and what they have in mind that's going on. This agenda started prior to Obama, but has been escalated by the economic stimulus bill. $4.35 billion, Arnie Duncan admitted that money would be a catalyst to push Common Core. They did it with race to the top competition. Lots of schools in Ohio got race to the top money. When I've been asking, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? I get, well, don't you want to, Kelly, don't you want to see our students do better? You've seen the data. I said, yes, I do. Don't you want our standards to be more rigorous? Yes, I do. But I really don't think the Ohio standards are the problem. Because Ohio standards were written in 2001 by 100 different education professionals. I do trust them. But I don't trust the federal government to come in and say, here you go, here's some better ones. You can write a bunch of paragraphs that sound beautiful. And we're going to think, oh, great, yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, that's a good idea. We all know that's a bunch of hooey, don't we? Because you can write a paragraph that says nothing, actually. Because the test guides everything. The test is in control. And we have Gates on film saying that when you align the test with the standards, which I think the test has already been written, when you align the test with the standards, the curriculum will follow. So Ohio can tell you all they want, that you can use whatever curriculum you want. So I said to Tom Gunlock and Deb Turr, I was in a meeting with them, with some of my friends who know Common Core inside and out, and I said, why are you doing this? And he said, Kelly, look, if you don't want Common Core, Tom said this, you don't have to take it. You guys can do whatever curriculum you want to do in Springboro. I said, so you're telling me that I can go back to Springboro and I can say, look, Common Core's no good. We're going to do our own curriculum. In fact, I like Hillsdale classical style teaching. Let's use that. And he says, yes, you can do that. And Deb Turhar said, but I want to do that. So did Terry Ryan of the Fordham Institute. I wouldn't do that. I said, why? Because I wanted them to say it out loud. They said, because your students won't pass the test.
Right.
I said, exactly. Exactly. I have no choice in Springboro unless I want my students to fail the test. Unless I want to put a damper on my students' ability to get into college, to get into careers, to have an impressive resume. Of course I'm not going to set them up like that. I don't have a choice. And Deb Turhar, you're telling me that that test isn't going to test for the 40% gifted population we have at Springboro. We rank among the highest schools academically in the state. But you're telling me my accelerated students aren't going to score well on that test because you know we're not going to teach the nonsense that's going to be on that test. You know that's not the stuff we teach. There's a mismatch, right? Why would you take the students who are doing well and change their curriculum unless you had an agenda that drove that test? And they know we're not going to teach to that agenda unless we're forced to. And we are forced to. Okay, so Race to the Top, we got $400 million as a state to participate in Race to the Top voluntary competition. Now, I was told that we spent $200 million of that $400 million, and there is fear that if we pulled out of Common Core in part that we'd have to pay back that money. How much is the state budget? $64 billion. If we had to pay back, if we had to pay back 200, let's say even 400 million, is it a big deal? To get the federal government out of our classroom? Nope, well worth it. Best $400 million I think we'd ever spent. But I don't think we have to pay it back. It was a voluntary contractual agreement to try this out. We tried it out, we can say no thank you. That's my thought. Now, I may be just the person to take it on, right, Rick? It's sick. And I said to them, Ohio School Board, I said, look, let's do this. Let's have films. Let's do a PR campaign, the likes of which the federal government has never seen. And if they demand their money back, we put students in a classroom with the roof leaking right next to them in a bucket and saying, well, we can't afford to fix the roof because the federal government took our money. Or let's get kids walking in snow, gravel roads in the dark, to school 2 miles and just say, well, we can't afford new buses or busing because the federal government came and took our money. So I don't think that's going to happen. So let's not use that as an excuse not to subjugate our responsibility to the federal government. Federal government has no place. They're in the Constitution. When they formed the Federal Department of Education, it was specific and said that the Federal Department of Education would not get involved in state-level standards, in state-level testing, and in state-level curriculum. And OMG, here we are. Common Core and Park is all 3. So it's unconstitutional. But it's still here. Why isn't anybody challenging this? It's frustrating. So I'm going to keep going on some of this stuff because otherwise I'll never get done. You guys get bored. Here's what, I keep giving kudos to people at the state level saying, you guys, you've done some good things. Really good things. One of the problems that I think we've always had is that when it is levy time, aren't we always told that you have to pay and benefit this way? When that question comes up, you have to pay and benefit this way to keep the best of the best. And I think that's very possible. You want to prove that to me because I'm a kind of a free market minded person. I do run a tea party in Lebanon. I have for 3 years. I've been the chairman of the Warren County Tea Party, and we're one of the largest in the state. So we're doing pretty well there. But anyway, so we're about free market. So prove to me, using free market principles, that we're paying and benefiting in a way that is a match to the free market. And I'll buy it, because that makes sense. So when they say we have to pay and benefit this way, I'll say, well, how do we know? Because we've never measured teaching effectiveness. We don't know if we have the best of the best because we've not measured it. Let's start measuring teaching effectiveness, and then that could be used. Because I do think we have enormous numbers of really, really good teachers. And I do think we want to pay them what we need to keep them. It's just market, right? Let's use that. But to blanket everybody with raises, we all pretty much object to that. But what they did in the state of Ohio was they made us now, which is great, 3rd grade reading guarantee. When we were interviewing superintendent candidates, one of the things that we were looking for, this was our 3rd, by the way, in my 3 years there. I didn't ask them to leave, they just left. But it's not my fault. Actually, the newspaper said I was overbearing and something else. And I said, but I did it with a smile. I was trying to keep a sense of humor about it. I'm just asking questions. But I asked the candidates for superintendent the same question. I said, were you aware that Springboro has 23% of our students that don't meet the minimum competency to get into college? And that's a mismatch with the numbers of gifted students that we were just told we had. That doesn't make sense. 1 in 5 of our students can't meet the minimum competencies to get into college, yet we supposedly have 40%. So somewhere there's a problem, superintendent candidate. You know what's going on. And I asked them all the same question. The one we hired had this answer, and I liked it. He said, well, Dr. Coles, that's happening in the younger years. He said, what we're doing is we're progressing students, because he was a principal in an elementary years before, and he left our district, gone somewhere else, and came back to interview. He said, that's happening in the younger years. We are progressing the students along, even if they can't read. Yeah. And so it just kind of spirals. And the teachers are told, and correct me teachers that are in here if I'm wrong, but you got to kind of push them. You got to kind of let them go ahead, give them a little dab of, but we don't want to hold back students. I was told that when I wanted to hold back my son in 2nd grade. No, you don't want to do that. And they discouraged me, and doggone it, I wish I had done it. I wish I had just said, no, you'll hold him back. And now we struggle with, getting him to catch up. But I think they're told to go ahead and progress them. So he said, I said that, I said it, I showed this district the data, and he says, I was so frustrated I left, because he was a principal in an elementary. That's why he left. So I was grateful to hear this third grade reading guarantee, because now the state says 100% of your students must meet a reading benchmark by third grade, or they will not progress to the fourth grade. So it kind of holds them back. Guess what, guys? That's a logistical nightmare for districts, because that student can progress to fourth grade in science and math, and you have to hold them back a year in reading. Well, they don't want to do that, because that's a lot of resources that'll take to do that. So they put extra resources in second grade to make sure those kids are reading. So it's working, I think, to get them all reading so that the fourth grade teachers, fifth grade, sixth grade teachers aren't dealing with someone who can't read the assignment. That's not what keeps them from getting their math assignment or science assignment done. They're reading. So I'm saying kudos, state. We needed to do that. I know it's a nightmare for districts right now to get used to. I know our district had to funnel more resources to second grade. We had to hire some more reading intervention. But we've identified a deficiency, and we're addressing it. That's why we're all paying our taxes, right?
That's smart.
That's what we're here for.
Prevent
Second,
the law.
A through F grading system. Not real impressive, but now the 352 districts, once they apply the A through F grading system, there's only 22 that get an A, not 352. That's more like it, because there should only be a few districts that make an A, right? If you're looking at a normal bell curve, and you're being honest, only a few districts should make that. Now, third one, OTES, OPES, that's the teacher evaluation, principal evaluation. That's a little rocky, but I'm glad we're working on it. We're just working on it. Still pilots all across the state, there's pilot programs, and we're getting people on board with that, because student outcome is a part of that formula. That's the toughest part to get over. HB 165 says you must teach the original context of the 6 founding documents. Northwest Ordinance, help me out, Federalist Papers, Ohio Constitution, U.S. Constitution, I think it's the Bill of Rights and the Declaration of Independence. That's 6, right? You must teach the original context of those 6 founding documents, and you must have a test. The test was to be completed last year for the first
Are
year.
included on that?
Yes,
Wow.
it's great. Okay, so complaints to those 4 is that not enough teachers are involved. I think that's legitimate. That's legitimate. We need to get definitely teachers in there, definitely teachers involved in all this process. Now, Common Core and Park are the things that they added all at the same time, and they obligated us to all 6 of those. I'm not objecting to the first 4. I'm objecting to the last 2 in my presentations everywhere I go. We have problems in Ohio, both fiscal education problems and academic education problems. These 2 do not fix them. Okay, I think I've made that clear. Complaints about those 2 is, again, it didn't involve enough teachers,
What's
enough
assessments?
educators. What?
What's assessments?
Assessments.
Well, the assessments is a park test. When I say park, there's 2 consortium. There's Park, Partnership for, it's long. Now I forget what it is, because I'm standing up here. When I get in my car, I'll remember it. But there's Park, and then there's Smarter Balance. Those are the 2 test consortia that got $360 million by the federal government to write these tests.
Oh my God.
Trust me, those tests are done. They know what a socialist society child needs to know, and that's written into those exams.
Yeah.
The Common Core standards are written so that we guide that student to that exam. And the curriculum, let me tell you this, the textbooks are written by one business. Pearson Textbook Company
Yeah.
is the #1 publisher of K through 12 textbooks. They're under contract with Park. They're under contract with Bill Gates to produce their textbooks that match that stuff. They have bought 18, if you go to Pearson Acquisitions, you'll see that they have bought 18 publishing companies, all the K through 12 publishing companies. They let them keep their name, but it's the same company.
Who's it funded
They-
by? Who owns it, Kelly?
Who owns it? Well, Pearson, it's a UK publisher.
Okay.
Okay, but they're in UNESCO or United Nations. It's all a part of that. It's all a part of the same organization. You understand what's going on here? This has been in the works for 30 years, people. So honestly, when I say that I think the education whole establishment was set up, there were players in it. May I say, I think the OEA, I think the teachers union were in it. I don't think the teachers in the classroom were. But this whole thing has been set up for years. Now what's going to happen is Pearson plans on putting all of the education materials online. So every student has to take their tests online, and there are 4 of them per year. 4 of these tests per year, they have to do it on a computer. There's no more paper and pen. Even if the district and the parents saw it and said, I approve of that, that looks good, that looks fine, push of a button, you can change it. You can change the textbook content, and you can change that exam. What I saw on my daughter's PSAT were the questions marked H were very political. She answered them the way I would have. So coming at that passage from a conservative standpoint, you might answer it one way. If you came at that passage from a liberal standpoint, you would answer a different way. I told you, a beautiful way to sift through the conservative mindset children versus the others. And you had to answer it more the liberal way to get it right.
What did you mean by
Interesting.
marked
So
H?
the right answer is the
H.
liberal answer.
Well, what we saw was,
Yeah.
I mean, she answered them the way, and again, she's probably far brighter than I am, and she answered them the way I would have when I read the passage. There was a passage about Oprah Winfrey and how her book club was very, very wonderful. I took it to mean it, saved us from ourselves because we didn't know how to read before her book club. I'm exaggerating, obviously. I was a little, what? And then there was some global warming, man-made global warming stuff. It was political. Everything that is a political hot topic today was a passage that they had to read about and then take a couple lines and decipher what that meant. Interesting.
And if you decipher that it was BS, you failed. If you decipher that global warming's real,
Well, see,
you pass.
when I start reading the passage, my blood pressure starts going up.
Yeah.
What are they telling my kid? They never miss a teachable moment on these tests, an indoctrination moment. They never miss
Well,
one.
you sound like Ron Emanuel.
Interesting. Anyway, let me get back to this. Sorry, I could go on too long for you. But the purpose of Common Core was to impose nationally recognized rigorous standards so our students can be competitive. I need some water. Competitive in the global job market and can be compared to students across state to state. In the past, the key players in this national global education takeover, let's just call it what it is, nobody can convince me any differently. Progressives such as Achieve, the National Governors Association, which is NGA. You'll also hear of CCSO, which is the Chief Council of State School Officers. They own the copyright of Common Core standards. So a state, once they sign on, cannot change those standards. You cannot change them. We can, as a state, add 15%. Let me ask you, if we decided that Calculus 2 and Calculus 3 were important, and we wanted to add that as a district to our curriculum, do you think we're going to funnel resources to those two when they're not on the test? Those two are important for a lot of the science careers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but if those courses will cost us money and not get our students any better exam scores, will we put resources towards them? It's not likely. You don't put resources when they won't result in any benefit to you. It's just common sense. So there are things that this whole scheme is missing for our students. I talked about, I'm hoping I'm bringing this full circle, I talked about our gifted students being left out. So we can add 15%, that's according to our contract. But who's going to do it if it's not tested? Because the PARCC test and the Smarter Balance, either one we choose, will not test for that extra 15%. It's not likely we're going to put it on there. Okay. It was tried in the 1990s because the liberals then tried this. In 1990, they tried to create a national history standard. It was stopped after our U.S. Senate rejected it, 99-1. It was seen as anti-American and too politically correct. So when I'm asking Tom Gunlock, and he's a friend, he's a brilliant guy, I ask him stuff all the time, and I said, Tom, but the stuff they're going to put in this is so politically oriented. You know the agenda. And he says, Kelly, that's happening now. I said, I know. So I'm I'm trying to tell you this so that, guys, even if Common Core is gone, we have a battle in front of us. And it's to take back true American history, constitutional liberty. It's to take back education from the groups that have foiled it for us.
The watermelon.
That's not the teachers in the classroom. I think they were a part of it, and they might have noticed, and they might not have said anything because we saw how the income was going for them. But, you know, maybe you can't buck a system that's working for you. I would hope, though, that more feel like, okay, today is the day that I can stand up and say, this curriculum is bad. And help us say it. Help us identify it. Please, teachers, we need help to identify this bad stuff. There is so much anti-American in it. There is so much that makes these children ashamed of their heritage. Can I tell you a story? Last summer, I was on The Blaze. I don't know if you saw it. I was on there with David Barton, and he asked me a question. But my daughter last summer she was in AP History, or set up to take AP History in the fall. Over the summer, they were to read 2 books. One of the books was written by a person, and she came to me, and we got to get the picture here. My husband's 6'6", so my daughter's 16 and 6 foot already. And stunningly beautiful, if I do say so myself. But she walks up, she says, "Mom, this book is really bothering me. It's really making me feel bad. I can't sleep, it's just making me feel bad." And I said, "Oh, Harper," her name's Harper, "you're such a weenie, give me the book." And so I took the book, because I thought, come on, I try to teach them to be tougher than a book. Really, it's a few words. So she handed me the book. She was only on page 22 of a 700-page book.
Oh my God.
I got to page 6, and my blood pressure shot through.
It raised blood.
I said, what the? And I went to the computer, and I started looking up who the author was. Guys, the author is self-proclaimed communist, hates America, everything. Everything we have as principles in our home. He was he was Howard Zinn.
Oh, Zinn.
Howard Zinn. She was required to read a Howard Zinn book, 700 pages of her summer spent reading Howard Zinn. He's anti-Christian, anti-capitalism, anti-military. Definitely badmouths the military. He's anti-everything our family believes in. And so I wrote to the teacher and said, under no circumstances will she be forced to read the likes of Howard Zinn. She is 16 years old. You'll not fill her head with anti-principles, everything we believe. Well, it's a college course. AP is a college course, and they're promoting this in colleges. They read it in colleges so that they can come back and maybe argue some of the points, because he picks parts of history and totally mutilates them to make you ashamed to be an American. That's his objective. Because if you hate the capitalistic society we live in, then you're going to be attracted to the socialist society that he's portraying as a beautiful one. But at 16, she's not ready, because she doesn't have enough real American history, to debate that issue. But what we've done is fill her head with anti-American sentiment. When I asked these children who came to my home, you know, I have 3 that graduated in the last few years. By the way, they were pretty girls too, so we had plenty of people coming to the house. A lot of young boys and friends. And I would ask them, guys, what do you want to do when you grow up? Because that's just what parents do, right? You have nothing better to ask them. What do you want to do when you grow up? You know how many of them said, I just want to work for a nonprofit. Guys, they don't know what they want to be when they grow up. They just know they don't want to make a profit. Because in their education system, they've been led to believe that making a profit is a bad thing.
Okay.
That being an entrepreneur means that you somehow deprive others of something. If you succeed, you're a bad person. That's what they're led to believe. I was sickened every time I heard it. Oh, why? So, you know what we said when we were growing up? I want to be a millionaire. We all said it. I want to make $1 million. And guess what? When we were doing that, we employed people.
You create more wealth.
We created more wealth. That's what made this country wealthy. That's why we are the most philanthropic nation on earth.
That's why
When somebody has a catastrophe, don't you all give everything? Don't we give enormous mountains of money? I have to ask, will China do that? Will Japan do that? Will Russia do that? Have they ever done that?
No, they're jealous.
Come on.
They don't want their people to see how good we got it here, so they can keep
I'm just saying, even if Common Core and Park are gone, which we have to fight and say absolutely under no circumstances, if a Park test were in place right now, I would remove my children on the day the test is taken. Because they also accumulate an enormous amount of data on your children, on your
Yeah.
grandchildren.
Yeah.
They're doing it in healthcare, they're doing it in education, they glom onto everything. The state may say, Andy Brenner is one who proposed a bill, 181, and said, okay, it's illegal for Ohio to share our information that we gather with the federal government. The problem is, duh, it doesn't come from the state. You don't understand, the test is taken by the Park Consortia, all of that data goes to Park, and Park is under contract to give it to the federal government. There's no state involved in that formula, so it doesn't matter what the state says. Your student's personal data, and lots of it, circumvents the state and goes directly to the federal government. And then they have volumes of data on you. You know when you use your Kroger card, your Speedy Rewards, all that data is accumulated too. But guys, I don't use that stuff. I'm not using Kroger so much anymore. I definitely spend the cash. I definitely Kroger. But I'm not going to use those rewards cards anymore. Because the intrusion is just too enormous. But what they learned when they tried this in 1990 was that they shouldn't call it national. That's why back in 2009, we can find documents where it says Common Core National Standards. But in 2010, they said, shh, you can't say that. So they started calling it Common Core State Standards. So they learned, don't call it national, people don't like that. And then they imposed them quickly and quietly. In 2010, if you go to osblc.com, you will see our debate. So I had people supporting Common Core and people who oppose Common Core. It's a 2.5 hour, you'll learn tons. But we held that, and I said, look guys, we had a packed house, 375 people, wall-to-wall people wanting to hear this debate. And I did too. I said, guys, I'm a school board president, and I do this stuff full time because I'm passionate about education, and I know nothing about Common Core. That should send out flags to everybody. I'm into this, and I don't know anything about it. Wow. So it was very stealthy. And then the state says, well, Kelly, we had 12 different blah, blah. When? You know, it's 6 a.m. in Columbus, or they have midnight. I mean, I never saw any of the announcements, any of the invites. I never saw any of it. But I'm sure if I had been there, you'd tell me all the good stuff about it. You wouldn't have told me the bad stuff. But start with less controversial subjects like math and English. So when I asked the president of the Ohio School Board, why aren't we accepting or going to adopt the social studies and science standards, because those are being done right now too. And Deb Turhar said, oh, those are too controversial. So they know that those have a significant political agenda, but math and English don't. Guys, please go to Ohioans Against Common Core and look at some of the examples they have on there. You tell me if there's no political agenda.
There's a lot of politics in the
Exactly. Lots of politics, lots of smut, lots of immorality. And it's disgusting
The
stuff.
nonfiction text articles that they're using are all political.
All political.
Yeah.
Informational text are all non-political. Right.
They're all political.
All political. I'm sorry. All political. I believe you. And math. One of the moms, one of the videos, if you guys seen it, you push on a video of a mom who stands up at a school board meeting and says, school board, I want you to do this math problem. What was it? 99, what was it, guys? 99 divided by 18 or some such thing. And she says, what's the answer? And one of the school board members answered her something like 5. And she said, right, how did you get at that? He said, well, I just took 99 divided by 18. Now, don't do my math. I probably have the numbers wrong. And he says, so she said, you did that in 2 steps, right? And he said, right. She said, here's Common Core math. And showed him this whole big process that took 108 steps.
Oh my. That's around here.
And if you don't follow 108 steps, you get the problem wrong. If you answer a math problem wrong with, let's say the answer is 12 and you put down a 13, you might still get it right. If you showed that you filled in all these little circles and followed all the steps, you still get it right. Now, how the world could that be helpful
I
to
got a niece, I
anyone?
help with her math, and I run exactly
Oh,
into that
my.
problem. That's why I'm here. I said, this is totally insane.
When they made it.
I
so
told her
parents
that, don't
can't
feel
help
bad
with
about it.
She's saying that they made it so parents can't help because we wouldn't have a
Yeah.
clue on how to go to, Egypt and back to get the
that.
answer.
It's not rigorous, it's ridiculous.
It's not rigorous, it's ridiculous. I like
I
that.
watched,
I'm gonna use it.
somebody showed me one of those problems that says take at least a half a page of paper to do the same problem that I could do using standard old math
Yeah,
on a matchbook cover.
And teachers, if they're seeing this, they have to be
Yeah.
frustrated. I'm not
They're
hearing
not
enough
being
from them.
ecologically sound because they're wasting paper.
That's true,
yeah.
but they're all gonna do it online. Now,
But it's
If
so
the-
frustrating for the
they're great.
student. I mean, my
Gotta
niece
be.
is just total like this after
Gotta
3 or
be.
4 problems. She can't think anymore. Her brain is overeaten.
let me ask you, if the tests are all online, the textbooks are all
She's a smart
online,
girl.
what's missing from that formula
Can't.
to make it all online?
Yeah.
The teacher.
Yeah.
Now, this whole evaluation system, why do you think they're identifying the best? Because those are the ones that are going to be online. We need one teacher to teach hundreds of students at a time. He or she can be online on that computer screen, and all we need is a monitor to go around the room to make sure everybody's on the same program.
When not only they have to be right, they have to be willing to go along with it.
Yeah.
They have to be willing to go along with it. So we could have a fundamental change in the whole teaching profession in just 2 years. When the park takes over, Pearson's ready. So that's already online. They're ready to go online now. When the park test is there, so that's all online. Guys, and we have, in 2 years, we'll be evaluating teachers to identify those top ones. I'm not sure we need all the rest. And that's not what I want. So if teachers understand the significant change that could happen to the teaching profession, I wish they would start now standing up and saying, guys, this is the wrong direction. I'm not going to do this. And union, I know you support Common Core. I don't support you.
They're not.
Because well, I'm saying that we're seeing the disparity in the economic reality. There's creating more and more divisiveness. If teachers want to be respected, and I am one, okay, if we want to be respected, then we have to do respectable things, which is to stand up for these kiddos and say that's not right for these kids. It's not right for my profession. And having an economic reality that's so far apart from my neighbor is not okay. Because my neighbor's going to resent me, and I'm not into that either. I want fairness in compensation, and I want fairness for these students. Teachers have to start standing up, and maybe they will when they start seeing the crumbling of the teaching profession. I'm hoping they do it before that happens. And saying there are 3 things we have to address here. The money has to address the deficiencies, because there are some. We have to stop calling a failing grade okay. We have to start experiencing the economic reality and say, let's talk fairness and let's talk parity in a pay and benefit systems. Otherwise, we're going to set ourselves up for people not liking us much. And I don't want to do that because I want to be respected like every other profession. You can be respected, make a decent pay, decent benefits, but if it's double what everybody else is seeing, and in our case it's 4 times, if that's the case, they're not going to go for that for very long. And they're going to resent me for that. So I need to say, okay, here's where we want to come to a meeting of the minds. It's not Common Core. It won't fix it, it'll destroy it, guys. The federal government gets involved in everything and they destroy it. They take the money and then give it back to you with strings, with ropes, with gigantic ropes.
And then
So
they
it's
pay.
federal control and no local control.
Who's behind it? It's unaccountable outsiders. Bill Ayers. He's very involved. Gates Foundation, over $300 million in every facet, also funded by the Fordham Institute, a very conservative organization, but they've been given well over $6 million to promote this.
Oh, sure,
So-
you follow the money.
The money talks more than the philosophy, I guess. Achieve is an established by MGA, so you will see Achieve a lot connected with Common Core. The Pearson Corp from UK, buying up all the companies. Guess what, guys? If the ACT and the SAT is aligned, what are we going to do? Well, here's a solution. Here's another solution, teachers, administrators, probably some in this room. You can say, we're not going to use that. We're going to develop our own ACT. We're going to use classical education, and we're going to find our own test. And those schools are going to come to us and tell us they want our students. They don't want these guys that have been taught to the mill. I have a cold.
Kelly, who would make that, the state or would the local school districts make that test? If somehow miraculously we got out of, SAT and the ACT.
We'd have to do it as a
Because if they
state.
control that, they do.
We'd have to do it as a state. If this state, like Texas, said, no, thank you, we're going to write our own.
Any
We
appetite
could
for
do that. Hey, I have raised my hand to the Ohio School Board and said, I'll write it. I'll help you write the test. Let me teach financial literacy too, because I'm worried that the financial literacy classes are oriented more towards teaching kids that they have to pay their taxes first.
Any interest, any appetite?
Oh, I was told that by somebody in my Tea Party. He was a former school board member, and I said, what do you want to teach, Maynard? What is it you want to teach? He said, well, that they have to pay their taxes first. I said, wow, we are so far apart on this one. Wow.
Jess, and what planet it came from?
Yeah.
What kind of a response are you getting? You talk to a lot of people in high places in this whole thing. What kind of responses are you getting from them? Because we attended the hearings things at the State House recently on this, and it was a huge crowd. I never heard anything back about how any of that came out. We were in the atrium, so we couldn't see people that were speaking, but obviously those people were not happy with the people who were speaking this type of thing in their testimony. What are you hearing? Are you getting any support at all from legislators, from the Ohio School Board? I mean, I feel really helpless about what to do about it, because if people like you who can speak well to these folks and have their ear are not making any headway, I'm not sure where we need to go from here.
I would not say that we're not making headway. Did you see all the states that are red now? So there is a movement. And what I keep telling, I send them these articles. I have all their emails, and I send them, the Ohio School Board people and Colleen Grady and all. I send them this stuff. And I'm thinking at some point they're going to say, stop it, Kelly. But so far they haven't. They take it from me. And some of them aren't very nice. And I'm really just trying to do an FYI. This is what they're saying. FYI, this is what they're saying. So Heidi Huber is, I said, an encyclopedia. But she's an encyclopedia with a sledgehammer in her hands. So there's different approaches to talk to people. I talk to them with more of a, I understand where you are. It's just like, Roy videotapes me and they watch these videos, so they hear me saying their names. But I'm trying to say that they are smart people. A lot of them are conservative. I think they bought in because it was we already obligated ourselves to it, and the money, and,
Well, I think
and
that's
all of
it.
that.
I'm losing patience with people who,
I am too.
who see it, they know better, but because their pocketbook is going to be affected by standing up against it, are unwilling to do so. And I think we need to find a way to hold these people's feet to the fire. I don't think we're making very much progress, and they're making tons of it. And our children, we're losing
And
our
we don't have
kids.
time. And
No,
that's
we
exactly
don't.
why, I don't know if you read an article or two, but I was thinking about running for lieutenant governor. And the reason is, I don't feel that Ohio has another 4 years until we're cooked. I don't think we have another 4 years. People in this state need to be protected from what is going on. We need to protect our unborn first. And part of what's going on in Common Core, let me go here. Sorry, it's off the subject. I'm not getting to my slides at all. But part of what's going on in Common Core is that the whole intent of it is to teach children to think with their emotions.
Yeah.
Because if you teach children to think with their emotions, they don't think with their intellect. You can absolutely manipulate the minds of somebody who thinks with their emotions. So they're teaching the children, and this is not new, but they've been teaching them that it's really sad that polar bears have less ice, or might have less ice, which is not true, they don't, but they do have more ice, actually. But anyway, it's really sad. You guys get emotional about this, but it's okay to murder the unborn. You see how Hitler was able to do that kind of mind control, because he could teach people that it's okay that I'm taking your neighbor to this little camp over here. The manipulation was huge. So I don't feel that we have 4 years. I'm with you. I'm getting to my end of frustration level and thinking, what do we do that's more powerful? Well, we take them to the primaries. Because the natural evolution of any movement, grassroots movement like you guys, is to take them to the challenge that you've been threatening you'll take them to, which is we're going to primary you. The primary is the place that if you call yourself an independent voter, guys, or know anybody that does, you're wasted. You're out of the race. You've got no impact, no voice. Stop it. Pick one. And where you pick your voice to be is at the primary. So we were thinking about, going through the primary. It turns out we just didn't have enough time to get enough groups to get behind us. So we didn't have enough time. We pulled out. But I decided to run for Senate. Again, because, not because I think Shannon Jones is doing anything necessarily wrong, but we need people to stand up and protect us from what's happening. And I don't see them in Columbus doing that. So to answer you, the way that you get them to listen is by maybe taking their seat. Do you see?
Yeah, I do, and I agree with
that's
that,
one
but it's
way
a
to
very
do it.
slow process. Do you see any benefit from large groups of people demonstrating on these
Yes.
things? I mean,
I do. I do.
We saw that a few years
Yeah.
back in, what was that,
Strengthen
2010, whatever?
strengthen
It did
numbers.
seem to have some impact on some people, but I think we need to be visible somehow
Yes.
in mass, and
Yes.
we're not doing that at this point in time.
That is visible. And otherwise, if you're not visible, they can ignore you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So your voice is important. But where is your voice? Do what we're doing. We're doing the rallying, the phone calls, the letters, all of that. That's important. But another place where they're going to have to pay attention to us is if we challenge them in the primaries. They have to spend money to go up against us. I've already gotten a couple mailings from my state senator. And I haven't spent a dime. I don't have a dime, so I haven't had to spend a dime yet. But to challenge them means everything. Because that's where they have to start listening. They either have to start standing up for your principles and your values, or they're going to get challenged. And they don't like to be challenged.
And you're
because
running for state senate?
Republican Party, yeah, I'm in the primary May 6th.
In what area?
Warren County, which is District 7. But see, that's how we do it, guys. You have to start getting yourselves on the ballot. Our founders set it up that way. Because with all the gerrymandering, you understand with the gerrymandering, every county or every district's already set. They know that in District 7, it will always be a Republican. Okay? So once the Republican makes it through the primary, they're free. Unless you challenge them at the primary, they're always going to be free to do whatever they want and not stand up for you. So we have to go put you kind of people. I have baggage. Everybody has baggage. We're not perfect. Get on the ballot. Make them either stand up and defend our children's rights and defend our seniors' rights and defend your tax dollar not to go to able-bodied people. The welfare system just grew by 500,000 people, you know.
Yes.
Which turned 70% of those into blue voters. We may not have time to pull this state out of blue. That's my fear. And everything that's going on, there's no workplace freedom in this state. All the states around us have it. So we lost, here's my story. If you go to my website, it's coles4ohiosenate.com. And I explain this. That in our county, we lost GM, Delphi, NCR, DHL, and my family, my husband and I had built our home, had worked on it every day for 5 years, went to change our construction loan into a full mortgage. The bank said no. We said, why? Our income's exactly the same as it's always been when we applied, using my husband's only, not mine. It's the same. And we've never missed a payment, credit score of over 800. I'm sure you don't see many of those. And what's the deal? They said, your house is upside down. I said, well, I don't think so. They said, yeah, it is, by 300,000. So come to the table with 300,000. Or the 650, which was the full amount. I said, well, we can't. Why can't you just roll this into a mortgage? No, not going to do it. Because the housing values had plummeted in the area. And there was no way they're going to roll over an upside down amount. So we were among the collateral damage to this whole economy. We planned on paying our bills. We've always paid our bills. That wasn't the issue. Our income's the same, we could. they would not refinance us. So we saw a catastrophic level of events in our area, and I thought, what's not helping is that we have a governor who won't stand up for workplace freedom. Why do you think all of them left? They left because the workforce isn't ready to work for them. They left because their taxes are so hostile.
Yeah.
They can make more money in every state around us. Why not leave Ohio? And it left a lot of our families without protection.
Yep.
And it really destroyed our future. We've lost our retirement. We're starting from scratch. But I feel the pain of the Ohio citizens. But Common Core is one of the issues that, again, our legislators are letting it happen to us. They're not doing anything about it. You have to stand up there. We have to challenge them in the primaries. So here I go everywhere and I tell on them. And I'm challenging them in the primaries. That's what I want all of you guys to do. Go tell on them and then challenge them in the primaries.
Is
And
it,
I coach people on how to do it in their own district.
is it they don't see it, they don't understand it, or are they bought off? Or they get along with the
Well,
turnkeys?
I think you're a rhino. Back there, please take all of these documents to the back. Hey guys, don't leave without some of these. There's like 4 or 5 things. Take one of each. One of them is a resolution written by the RNC, the Republican National Committee. And the Republican National Committee, known to be pretty much center to center-left even, wrote a scathing resolution. They hate Common Core. Said, get out of it. What are you doing? It's crazy. Our governor still supports it. Even though the National Republican Committee says, get the heck out. This is crazy. Our governor supports it.
Well, you've got.
And our legislators.
Like my company is supporting it.
But he backed out.
And you know what?
He's learned.
They always come out.
The Common Core term is becoming toxic. They're going to rebrand it and call it something else.
Did you hear that? They're going to, we may not hear it called Common Core much longer.
Oh,
It's going to be rebranded because they have to kind of hide it. Now, what I say is that I don't think these people are evil at all. I think they're just wrong. And if you're asking me if they go along to get along, that's what we're trained to do on school boards.
Yeah.
Go along to get along. Don't tell people this stuff. Are you kidding?
The library will be closing in half an hour.
The first time I went out and talked out in public about this, my superintendent got calls the next day.
whoa.
And he calls me, he said, Kelly, were you up in Westerville last night? I said, yes, I was. He says, so I got this call. I said, what did you tell him, Todd? I was angry. So what did you tell him? I thought, don't say the wrong thing, buddy. But he said, well, I said, did you tell them that I have the same First Amendment right that they do? And I will choose to experience it and to express it just like they will? Did you tell them that? He said, yep, that's what I'm going to tell them. And that was the end of the conversation. So be assertive with your right to speak, even if we're trying to be shut off everywhere. We have to know, you guys have to know, or we can't address it.
But don't you think these politicians are taking a lot of money, campaign money, from companies that want all of this push?
I think that that's it. And I don't think, again, I don't think they're evil. I think they don't know enough about it. They need to attend one of Heidi's presentations,
Well, you have to pass it.
because I only gave you a real dusting, people. It is so much more insidious than I have time to explain tonight, but I wanted you to understand why we were set up and how we were set up
Yeah.
to take it. And then you go hear the details of Heidi, yeah.
Also, the Pearson Company, is it owned by Muslims? I've been told that the educational books are owned by Muslim companies.
I don't know.
Mark Lucas
That's a
has told
good
me
question.
that. Mark Lucas has told me
That's a
that.
very good question.
Owned by the Muslims.
So here's,
Dig deep enough, they'll find it.
Yeah.
online says, hey, all this expense is going to be out of your pocket soon. If you think education is expensive now, yeah, it'll get even more so. Who develops, and again, these slides are all yours. All you have to do is ask for them, and I will send them all to you guys so that you can have this narrative, because I'm just going to skip through and go to the end, okay? Here's this dispositions, socio-emotional dispositions. 1/3 of this content is about teaching kids to think with their emotions. We watched a little segment of a film where the teacher went to her 3rd or 4th graders and said, was asking them comprehension questions. I saw her ask this little boy, instead of asking who, what, when, tell, why, she said, well, how do you think the teacher felt when she had to give her pet away for the summer? he was supposed to read this passage and come out with an emotion. Not, what time of year was it? None of the details, none of the factual content. He was to read that passage and come out with emotions. See? That's how you manipulate the minds of our youth.
Oh, yeah.
Teach them to
Brainwash.
think. Brainwash. It works.
Oh,
Okay, and UNESCO, another thing, what experts say, that's in one of those brochures, guys, so when you grab that, you can read through that and you'll get some of this content. That's old. Let me get to this. Oopsie. Go back up here. So here's what I'm just saying. So solutions, real quick here. Require, that's not what I thought.
Tell us why you're
This is
doing
how to
that.
take control of finances.
Let me tell the people,
Okay.
while you're looking for that. We have a sign-up sheet. If y'all want to sign up and give me your email address, I can send you this, and I can send you other information on Common Core. Kelly can send it to me and stuff, and I can send
Absolutely.
you more information.
Ohioans Against Common Core has just lists and lists of awesome authors. Okay, solution is easy. Adopt standards that are rated by the Fordham Institute. I didn't go over this. The Fordham Institute paid over $6 million, went through all the states, and they graded like an A through F the state standards. Well, these, Tennessee, Texas, Massachusetts, Indiana, DC, and California were all rated by the Fordham Institute to have A standards. Guess what Common Core is? A B. They admitted themselves that Common Core, who has never been piloted, never tested, we don't know what Common Core does to children.
How can it have a grade?
How could it have a grade? But they said it's a B. But we have 6 states who have models with B. Common Core, why, again, I'm saying Tom, Gunlock, Deb Turhart, why are we accepting Common Core when obviously there's models? Massachusetts leads the country in academics.
California's terrible, so it means
Well,
that-
Massachusetts leads the country in academics.
Well, and Sandra Stofsky from Massachusetts said she'd be willing to share their
Free.
curriculum free with Ohio.
Free. She'd be able to sit down and write some standards that we could use. Massachusetts has some standards that work. They've been proven, they've been tested, they've gone for years leading the country.
What is
It's
work?
not about that.
What does work mean?
Pardon me?
What does work mean?
Where?
When you said Massachusetts works,
Well, their standards and their academic success is the highest in the country.
what's that mean? Academics?
That means that they perform better on the standardized tests.
Okay, so that means that they're following the liberal approach then.
If it's gone that far. I don't know
Well,
when
that's
this
what I say, they look like
transition
they're fairly
started.
liberal places, except for maybe Texas.
Oh,
right?
they definitely are. Oh, no kidding, no kidding. But I'm saying, the proof is that, and what she just said, it proves that it's not about the standards. The proof is it's not about academic outcome. Because we have a model. If you really are telling the truth, you would use a model that's proven. But that's not what it's about. Okay? It's about this liberal agenda. Raise expectations by raising those cut scores. Let's stop calling it a proficient when it's not. Allow school choice to increase competition. Doesn't everything get better with competition? Wouldn't you have to then be accountable to somebody? Wouldn't parents then have to do their homework? I'd have to go find out which school matches my family philosophy and which school is going to give my student what my student needs. I think that's the way to get parents. Come on, parents, invest. If you want to send them to this public school here, go ahead. But there ought to be other options, and they can all be public. I don't care. I'm going to choose a school system, though, that doesn't have a union in it. That's just me. Okay. But I'm going to choose a school system that has got a classical style teaching with the curriculum and the tests, who's got American principles, who didn't revise the history so bad it was pathetic. Hey, one good history book, Schweigert. Larry Schweigert, he's at UD, Schweikart. Oh, he's going to get mad at me if he watches this video and I spelled it
Say
wrong.
that again.
Larry Schweigert.
Isn't he on Glen Beck a lot? Or used to be?
Oh, Larry, I didn't know that. I didn't know if he has been. He's got 2 history books out there called the Patriots History Book. So I said my daughter will not read that, thank you, Zen book, but she will read Larry Schweigert's Patriots History Book. It's just about as fat, so she said, yeah, thanks, Mom. It's still 700 pages.
And did they say okay to that?
Yes, because right now, without Common Core and federal takeover, Parents have a say. Parents can say absolutely not. No, my
But,
child won't read
not,
that.
but not once it's ingrained in there? Do you have an option to say no
Once
to
the
it
federal
then?
government's telling you this is required, then I as a parent can't tell the federal government she's not going to read that. The teacher might be able to say, okay, Coles, you don't have to make your kid read that, but the problem is she's not going to pass the test.
Well, and